I was getting ready to ask, are we recording?
I literally, we got like, you started riffing off of what I said, and I was like, I guess we're recording. So if you're joining us today, we're going to be talking about Consolidated Rules 2026. It's June 25th at about 2:40, about the time of recording this. Consolidated Rules have been out for less than 24 hours, and we are excited, but we know a lot of people are very confused, and a lot of people are very excited just like us. So
yeah,
we're getting our
I know
initial
one
thoughts.
thing, going through it today, I haven't had time to get through everything, because it's a lot of information, right?
Yeah.
I feel really bad for anybody who's been just waiting for this and not really staying up to date with what's going on, because there's a lot here.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Big tsunami wave. And we were just speaking prior to officially going live with the podcast here and riffing back and forth. I know I've had a brief moment to jump on the site. And one of the things I mentioned as well is it's a whole new look and feel. Go to fedramp.gov if you've not been there yet and check it out. Very, very little mention of Rev 5. I think you're speaking to it as legacy. Jason, you mentioned that the information's still there, but you got to go dig for it. It's in the archives, so you can still find that information, but it definitely shows everything that we've been hearing and everything that we've been putting out there for the public on the podcast about 20X, that 20X is the future and 20X is here to stay. And so I think that's very important for us to see. And I know everybody was sitting back waiting on these consolidated rules to release, and
could have been watching them the whole time in the GitHub repo.
Yeah. And I was you saying that people have been waiting. I know we've been heavily involved. Chad, you and I, and Alex, and the team especially. But I kind of regret not diving into the preview more than I did.
Yeah.
Just because there's some structural changes here. So if you've been in line with the KSIs and what were called the balance improvements, then there's some changes here. That took me a minute to wrap my mind around it this morning / yesterday evening. But so some major terminology changes.
Right.
The balance improvements was the term that FedRAMP was using for things like VDR, authorization data sharing, secure configuration guide, significant change notification. Those are now called rule sets. We're moving away from the modernization language as far as the temporary or the placeholder language into the finalized rules. So you have your rule sets, which if you've been involved, they were the balance improvements, or the rule sets are more like how do you do FedRAMP as a framework, as a operational body. And then you have your KSIs, which are still rules, but they're your key security indicators inside of your environment.
Yeah. So, it's really more of the KSIs are what you're operationalizing, right?
Yes.
Right.
And then the rules are more about the process to get there.
Yeah. How do you apply? How do you interact with your agency? How do you pivot if you need to pivot from one level to another?
That's a good point. It's like a full life cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's something. And one thing that we wanted to also call and just make sure that the rule sets, we highly recommend having the same level of scrutiny on the rule sets as far as proving you're following the rule sets that you do with the KSIs.
Yeah.
It's going to be better if you automate your rule sets.
Right.
It's going to be better if you automate, just like you automate your KSIs. If you can prove that, certification, it's called certification data sharing now. It was called authorization data sharing. So formerly the balance improvement known as authorization data sharing, or ADS, is now CDS, certification data sharing. That lines up with all the terminology changes that Pete and team have promised and have now fulfilled. That's one of the main themes I'm seeing here is fulfillment of promises.
And the thing that stuck out to me too is we've all wondered, like, gosh, why the setback in the date? That's happened a couple times, but when you see the vast, expanse of change to the whole FedRAMP program, based on this, including the Rev 5 side, well, it makes total sense now. Like, this is so integrated together that it all had to be done as one big body of work, right? And you have to grind through the whole thing in order to do a release like this.
Yeah, and with that, I kind of appreciate the path that they took right through this, right? Even the pilot phase and everything, and even the terminology, right? You were just speaking of balance improvements, and now it's okay. Even in that balance improvement period, people had the opportunity to post comments and kind of give their thoughts on it. And now it's like, okay, hey, we took a period of time, we took those comments, and now it's a hard rule. Like this is it. And going to what you were saying, right? It's like it all had to happen together. And I'm you stated, right? It's a fulfillment of promises,
Yeah.
right? These things have been spoke about, but seeing it out there live on the website now is actually really, really promising in my book, because it shows that, hey, this is the future, and this stuff is coming to life. And so,
Yeah.
heads down,
Yeah.
InfusionPoints will continue.
I mean, Tanner and I got to cut a podcast today with one of our really good customers and partner, and you know, we were taking them down the old way. I mean, we've been engaged with them for a couple of years,
Right.
as a provider, putting them on platform, work with them as you know, they had contract issues that arose just because of the change of administrations
Mhm.
and all, and it's like we're at this. I feel like we're at this midpoint where
Mm.
it's like halftime and we're kind of huddling, and it's like it's going to be a whole different game in the second half
Yeah.
with them.
Let's adjust. Yeah.
We're really looking forward to seeing how that plays out. It's going to be a great story, I think.
It is, and there's
Yeah.
so many people when we were out at RAMPCon, we heard this exact same scenario, right? It's
Yeah.
like, hey, man, I've already had investment and went down this Rev 5 path. Now what? And the fact remains is like it's not all hope lost, right? There's still a path for you there. Pete even spoke to that as well. And again, we're seeing that if he speaks it, there's promise there, and
Yeah.
we'll see it come to fruition. It may take some time, but the fact is we can still help our customers do both or transition if they will,
Yep.
right? And so that's the great thing about our platform. Just throwing that in there. XB40.com. Go check it out.
Yeah. Well, and as we were looking through the balance improvements when they were initially announced, they were optional for F5.
Mhm.
Right.
And now they're the rule sets,
Mhm.
the final version of said balance improvements, they are required for Rev 5. And
Right.
because of that, I'll be honest, the rule sets, excuse me, still getting used to these new terms.
Yeah.
The rule sets were for us because we already had the security built in to
Yeah.
the platform. The rule sets were probably the hardest part for us to wrap our minds around.
Yeah.
And they also include things like Vader or VDR, which
Right.
are like fundamental changes in comparison to what the Rev 5 path looked like. So
Because we've known the controls and how to implement the controls for a
we've been
long time,
doing it
right?
a long time.
But the structure of the program and how to work a customer into the program and through the
Mhm.
paces,
the continuous
all that has changed, right?
Yeah.
Or it's
Yep.
a lot of terminology has changed.
Yeah, and thankfully, since we've been through, we're going to be able to use our pilot experience through
Yeah.
Class B and C pilots to really just apply what we learned directly to our Rev 5 customers and also prepare them for the eventual, discontinuation of Rev 5,
Right.
or transition to 20X just once the industry sees that
Yeah.
it is going to be better in the long
Right.
run.
Yeah, I think there's so much to be said about the fact of those companies that jumped in early on the pilot, because I couldn't imagine coming into this, and not being a part of the pilot and trying to come in and figure all this terminology change out and everything.
Yeah.
It's really allowed us to stay ahead of things and even in a lot of times give our input as well.
Well, first corrective actions come in less than 5 months.
Right.
VDR, the FedRAMP notice, let's say it was number 14, but don't check my mouth on that. But with their alignment with CISA, the most recent CISA BOD document, they had to push the timeline up for VDR to December, first week of December.
Right.
And that's like 2 months faster than I think a lot of people were expecting. And it's not December. That's not when it starts to apply. That's when you start to get corrective action.
Yeah.
And then after the end of the grace period, you lose your certification. So it's fast. If you haven't been paying attention, my heart goes out to you.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw a reaction in I think in the comments on a
Mhm.
change that was made to Rev 5 and the controls about removing the parameters from all the Rev 5 controls, right? And there was some folks who were had heartburn over that, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think effectively FedRAMP has deparamified the controls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes to the build your own story. I thought our partner, our customer / partner earlier today, he had some really good insight in talking through, hey, the agency, they know the application, or the engineers know the application
Yeah.
and the system better than the agency's going to, and the agency doesn't have the staff to decrypt all of your processes. They need it to be explained to them by the people that know it the best.
Yeah.
And then build the right story and prove that. And instead of imposing some parameter requirement.
Exactly. Yeah.
So because they're the CISO offices at these agencies, they're going to know if something's secure. They're going to be able to call BS on something if it's not secure.
Well, it's funny. I was just speaking of this. I was just looking out of the side of my glasses, and I saw FedRAMP subnets, and it's actually FedRAMP subsets. Thankfully, the whole subnetting thing.
My heart skipped a beat when you said subnet. I'm not gonna lie. I was like,
It's like, are we using one?
Oh, subsets. Oh, thank God.
yeah. Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of really interesting stuff in here. One of the things that jumped out at me was the initial implementation phase. This is it formerly in the preview / the the original design and the RFCs. It was called in implementation. So it was in implementation. Now it is initial implementation. I'm not confused, I promise. So now the requirement is in order to apply for a FedRAMP certification, you actually have to be listed on the marketplace before you apply for certification. It's this initial implementation phase. It seems like it's sort of a spiritual successor to in process,
right?
But big key difference is you don't have to have an agency sponsor. This is essentially
you could self-actualize this one.
Equate it to being hey. There's some minor requirements. We'll have some more details coming out soon about like what that means. Explaining it in layman's terms. But there's
all that has to come out before these pipelines open, right? For Class A and B and C.
Yeah. So in the timeline, we'll drop a little table in the description. But there's a timeline. Sorry, my producer's cursing me behind the camera. Just nodding her head. Yeah, Tanner, I'll do it.
Who's this we?
Yeah, we. So thank you, Caitlin. Shout out to our producer. But the initial implementation phase, the FedRAMP's going to allow cloud service providers to be listed, basically to apply for that listing on the marketplace July 6th. So that's soon. That is like what, 2 weeks?
Yeah,
less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, not even. So this goes back to that push of allowing organizations to really start marketing, right? And that they're in the marketplace.
Their intent,
their intent.
Signaling.
And so I'm excited about that. I think it's really going to allow companies that were looking to get into the federal space that opportunity to kind of start building that business case.
Right.
So
it'll be nice that we were always excited when our customers got listed in the marketplace, obviously, but
it was a big announcement.
It was frustrating that was the big goalpost,
right?
Because that means you did everything, and you want to be listed on the marketplace or be able to market yourself before.
Very true.
Well, and to know the full life cycle. It's good to know, when they started the process all the way through.
It was very binary in the old guard path, because it was like you either you had some a lot of CSPs that had ready or in process, but usually it was just nothing or full certification,
right?
And they just come out of nowhere, which isn't good for the agencies either, besides their sponsor, because the other agencies might want to say, hey, we should, y'all should push for it, and because they need the innovation. So
I can tell that FedRAMP is really looking at their game of tracking metrics and tracking the process, and being able to tell more of a story by the numbers, right? I mean, if you just look at the repos that are out under FedRAMP's account, they've now they're tracking a change log of changes as they're happening to the marketplace, right? So there's not just the marketplace data. You don't have to comb through the commits like I used to generate those charts, but now there's a change log, so you can think of the visualizations that you could do. Of what's changing with FedRAMP over time.
It's very exciting. Yeah, it's a couple of the other dates that jumped out at me. They're sticking with the July 28th date of the end of FedRAMP Ready. Rest in peace. It's going away. And specifically on this table, they say providers should seek FedRAMP Rev 5 Class A certification instead. We're doing a lot of work right now analyzing that and seeing how best to support our customers and other CSPs. If you are not in the FedRAMP space, but you have just gotten your SOC 2 or are getting ready to get your SOC 2, look at FedRAMP. The Class A level of effort is not as great as Class B or Class C. It's not even remotely close to the same level of effort or same level of investment.
Yeah, and we've got an offering that we're launching here really soon to help take that output, map that to Class A, and basically get you submitted. So that you can get your Class A.
Yeah, and those submissions you could be submitting to get your Class A as soon as August 3rd.
Yep.
That's that when
we will be open for business by then and ready to submit.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. And then August 10th, they're opening up the temporary Rev 5 program certifications for Class B and C. So back, actually, it was February time, early Q1 timeframe when they released that set of 6 RFCs. There was one RFC specific to program certifications for basically those that were stuck. They wanted to have a valve release for a lot of CSPs that had received a ready or a full SAR, either a RAR or a SAR, but they lost their sponsor or they didn't have a sponsor to begin with. And there was specific dates that they called out that you are eligible during that time to go through and get a Rev 5 program certification directly from the PMO because you did all the work to get there, but you got screwed over by extenuating circumstances or just, the economy or the war in Iraq or Doge or whatever ended up being your extenuating circumstances. You got the short end of the stick, and that's not fair. So
and that was a big request from us, to open up a pathway like that. And it's awesome that the PMO just hears feedback and provides a way. They've listened to it, and it's even better than what we asked for, I think, in a lot of cases, right?
Yeah, they specifically spoke on this at RampCon. This exact question was asked because there was a CSP there that had lost their sponsor. They were already all the way down the path, and they were like, now what? And Pete spoke to the fact that they were going to be releasing this as a pathway for them to get them there. So it's awesome to see that people are still going to be able to take advantage of their investment that they've made.
Yeah, end of August, that's when Class B and C open up. So just over 2 months from now, you can start applying for your Class B or Class C cert. Again, reminder for everybody, Class D pilot has not occurred yet. That is scheduled for sometime beginning of 2027. So more to come on that. And then mandatory adoption, January 1st. The clock has started. The alarm rings on January 1st. This is a grace period. They're already effective. Technically, they're
start
effective.
adopting now.
Yeah, start adopting now. And then June 11th of 2027 is the big date. No more Rev 5 certs starting June 11th.
Yeah, it's crazy to see a date put to that.
Yeah, less than 1 year from now, Rev 5 certs will not be.
Because I'm going to be honest with you, from what I was hearing, I thought that date would actually be a little further out. Now, dates could slip. We've seen that.
A little bit,
But,
that's a lot of transitioning.
and not a lot of time.
Right.
Yeah. Now, to clarify, that doesn't mean that existing Rev 5 certifications are required to transition.
All have to transition to the rules.
Right.
This is Tanner speaking, not InfusionPoints. I think that's coming. I think that date is going to get established. Just because, at this time, I agree with Pete and the PMO's decision to not set that date yet because they want to, see the fruits of the agency adoption. But once that gets off the ground and past pilot, it's.
Well, they need to get to steady state operations with new before they tackle, okay, let's manage change.
What do we do with legacy?
Existing,
Yeah. There's a whole lot of stuff. Let me double check my notes before we drop. There's a lot of info, so we're not going to be able to explain it all here. There was some fulfillment of promises regarding Class C specifically. The PMO has noted that the idea is not necessarily the level of security being related to your FedRAMP level.
Right.
It's how much data are you showing. So Class B was like all the KSIs. Are you following them? And can you continuously prove them at any point in time? Which that's almost an oxymoron. Continuously at any point in time. The second of all, for Class C, they want historical data. So they've called out, there's a couple of requirements specific to Class C at this point that say, Class C, for example, your validation data is going to require at least the past 6 months of data. So, and then one big one that jumped out at me, having been through the pilots, is all KSIs are going to require more than one validation method.
Oh,
yeah,
I wonder where they got that from.
Oh, yeah. I like that one requirement.
I was pretty proud of that. Was like
we have 11 KSIs and 215 as of this point. Validations.
Like so that but that was nice. I'm curious to see. Yeah, I think that's just going to force people to be creative, which is good.
I like that
because you could build one big validation for every KSI, but it's just going to be too.
Well, there was always this thing too that we were hearing from the PMO. What happens if that validation fails, right? Like, or something happens that validation doesn't kick off.
KSI goes boom.
Yeah, exactly. What else is checking that? So again, it's you got to have something to actually check the check, right? And this whole cyclical thing that's working here.
Yeah, I also thought
what's the resiliency or recovery for the.
I thought the certification data sharing requirement. One thing that I just think is going to be interesting to see how it happens. So certification data sharing was authorization data sharing. So basically, your trust center data sharing requirements. You are going to be required to include all of your relevant policies and procedures documentation in the Trust Center,
Ooh.
which was interesting to me because there's a big push not to use documentation. So
Mhm.
in instances where it's relevant,
Yeah.
I think like narrative type documentation to provide as like a reference. I think that'll be very important, even if they're not like the gospel source of truth for
Mhm.
your system.
Well,
I think it'll hit the best of both worlds because that's what documentation is supposed to help, is to help you wrap your mind around a system you can't physically
yeah,
see.
and we're in 2026. It's interesting. We're halfway through, and if anything, documentation is getting better and better, right? But,
Yeah.
and it's not because humans are writing it,
Right.
It's because AI is writing it.
Exactly. Well, you said right out the gate with 20X when we started looking at it that the KSIs really document the story. They document the operational procedures of the environment in themselves, and so
And you can always back out the machine language into an intent language, right?
exactly. I mean, you could feed even the output JSON, right, that we have into some type of model, and it would probably come up with a
like
pretty
engineers
spot
used to
on.
hate doing that, right? But now engineers, what are they doing? They're voicing intent
Mm-hmm.
to a coding agent that's building the functionality. So it's kind of reversed.
It's reversed, yeah, exactly.
And documentation's gotten better as a result.
For sure, and it'll stay up to date.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot happening. Go look at Consolidated Rules. I'm going to do this again for fear of being kicked off the podcast forever, but we'll include a link to Consolidated Rules in the description. So thank you, Caitlin.
Right on top of that,
my
Rose.
night.
Yeah, she's going to like mess with my audio, make me say something terrible on the podcast. But yeah, AI my voice and then have me get
She's
canceled.
getting good with AI too, though.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't a big deal for her.
But yeah, other than that, go check it out. Ask us questions. We'll have all kinds of content coming out about this soon. But
Sure.
This is brand new. Reach out if you have questions. We're more than willing to talk about it.
Yeah, reach out about Class A. Reach out about if you're on the path to B or C. If you're trying to figure out, I'm in DoD and I've got some customers on the federal agency side.
Yeah.
We're working with customers that are navigating that. And maybe doing
if you're
20X.
if you're Rev 5 and you're like, what does this mean for me? Because it definitely means something for you. Do not don't want to understate that. But yeah,
for sure. Yeah, if you're looking to continue with more education, go back and view some of our previous webinars, previous podcast. If you're looking to see this in action, go check out xbu40.com. Our trust center's out there, and that historical data that Tanner was just speaking of is out there as well, so you can see that for yourself.
Yep. Cool.
Peace. All right, guys. Appreciate it.
What he said. Nice.